What's going on, good people? So recently Neca dropped a brand new 35th anniversary Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie box set. But with that release, is Neca screwing over the secondary market? You know, them and other toy companies, they are doing it as we speak. So let's get at it. So all the big players, Neca, Hasbro, Hot Toys, MyFX, all other companies, you know, they've been on a reissue kick of late, and it's kind of good and it's kind of bad. It's good if you missed out on a figure, you know, you really want it, you know, you missed out on the pre-order for some reason, one or another. And it's bad if you're an investor, you know, scalper, hoping for a big return on that secondary market. You know, now Neca's latest drop was that 35th anniversary Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie box set. And, you know, this box set is great for someone like me, you know, all 4 turtles and that ghost or spirit splinter, you know, because I don't have all the figures, you know, and that's where the collectors got upset. That spirit splinter figure was an exclusive for the Neca loot crate. And, you know, it's been going for over $200 to $300 on eBay by itself. And, you know, that secondary market price is just really crazy. So now in that box set, they reissued that spirit splinter. And, you know, I really wanted it, but, you know, I just, you know, it's only exclusive to the Neca store. So I would have to pretty much pre-order it right then and there from them. And, you know, with the tax and shipping, so if you round it up, it came up to $200, you know, and that's for a fourth quarter release. So this thing isn't going to be here till the end of the year. And to be honest, with the shipping problems and little QC issues that Neca's been having lately, latest being that diorama issue and stuff that I noticed personally happened within my collecting circle, you know, I was kind of uncomfortable buying direct from them. And so I just fell back. So I'll see when it drops later at the end of the year, you know, maybe at a show or a con, I could pick it up. But of course, we all know that's going to be at a premium, but it's less of a headache for me. Now, Neca has been quietly reissuing figures in different packaging, and they've reissued, you know, a lot of their Beetlejuice figures, especially that 1/6 scale version. You know, he was commanding a hefty price on eBay as well. And who could forget what had collectors a little ticked off, you know, all the IG posts I saw about that reissue, that Hannibal Lecter figure, you know, non-articulated figure, and with a price hike to boot. You know, toy companies have been reissuing their best-selling figures, almost like a PlayStation's greatest hits, but without the price drop. Now, Hot Toys, you know, they've been getting the most out of their licenses. Most recently with that reissue of the Arnold T2 Judgment Day, the T800, you know, and I have the original figure brand new in the box, you know, and if I knew, you know, I would have sold it quick just so I could recycle that money into the reissue. And how could we forget the countless reissues of the Robert Downey Jr. Iron Mans and Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight series. And, you know, matter of fact, I think I have about 4 Heath Ledger Jokers, if I recollect, you know. And I got all those from my main man Cliff at Lost for Toys in West Hempstead, New York. Great shop, great store. Check them out if you haven't already. Now, with those reissues, you know, I was able to get my hands on some of those great MyFX figures. You know, MyFX, you know, if a figure sells, they're definitely going to crank out a new one ASAP. You know, and I missed out on quite a few for retail, and I was able to get Gambit, Psylocke, Hush Batman, and that great symbiote Spider-Man. That Spider-Man was awesome, you know. And Hasbro, they've been on the tear with no F's given. You know, what's up with all those Optimus Prime figures they keep dropping? You know, we're talking Prime after Prime, and he still sells out consistently, which is crazy. You know, those Transformer fans, you know, they're just different, you know. And now they're reissuing some of their best-selling Marvel Legends from a few years back. So we got Magic, Apocalypse, you know, the Kingpin. I copped 2 Kingpins. And recently that Walgreens Silver Surfer, I copped that. Juggernaut, Colossus, they brought that back up, which I copped. And, you know, I was glad I didn't have to pay those overinflated prices on the secondary market, you know. And what do we got later coming that's next month. We got the Green Goblin, we got the Hover Chair, Professor X. And, you know, again, this is great if you missed out, you know, on these couple figures, you know, but I know the scalpers, you know, they're literally sick right now, because if your listings are overpriced, you know, you're going to have to come down, or you're just going to sit on that product for another couple years, you know. And if you're lucky, you might get that one person or two that might need it now. You know, they probably want to do some toy photography or a gift for somebody. But me, I'm patient, you know. And scalpers are partly to blame for these problems with the reissues. In this secondary market, it seems everyone is in on the reselling kick. You know, hell, even I've done it from time to time. Not too much, but I've done it. So what I'll do, you know, I'll buy, like, you know, right now I'm on the retro kick. So I'll buy 2 retro figures, you know, one to crack open, one to display, and one for the wall in the back. You know, I still got plenty more figures to put up. But if I see a figure going for 200 or 300%, you know, over market, you know, yeah, I gotta let it go, because I feel that figure will come out again, or we'll get another upgraded version. And, you know, I'll try to recycle that cash back into the collection, you know. But I've never gone into a store and saw a hot figure on the shelf and say, you know what, I'm gonna grab all 7 or 10 of those figures off the rack. You know, that's just grimy. And, you know, it creates an artificial demand for a figure, an artificial hype. You know, I grab 1 or 2 and leave some for the next man. You know, it's a courtesy for collecting, you know, collecting 101, you know. And I know toy companies, they watch what their product goes for in the secondary market. You know, if they're selling something for 40 bucks and they see it consistently overselling for a 200 or 300% markup, you know, you could bet those prices are going to rise, one, and you will see reissues or upgrades of that existing toy. So, you know, again, you got good and you got the bad. Now, I remember many moons ago when Hot Toys was dropping their first couple figures, and, you know, they were 80 bucks retail, and I thought that was crazy then. You know, now I'm paying 200 to 300 on an average for a Hot Toy, you know, and I had to fall back on some of those releases, you know. Same with the Sideshow statues. You know, I had to fall back because the prices just really got insane. Now, I still love the products. I just can't pay those overinflated prices, especially for something that's being mass produced, you know, like it is. And, you know, it's not like independent companies, you know, they have a statue or figure showcased at where I know it's probably only 200-300 pieces made max. And, you know, at that price point, with the amount of pieces that they have, you know, I could justify that price point that they're putting out there. Now, Hasbro, Neca, MyFX, Hot Toys, and all the toy companies, they will keep remaking product until it doesn't sell. Now, next up for Hasbro later this year is the Dragon Man. Now, he's not a reissue technically, he's more of an upgrade, a made-to-order figure. So now I'm watching now to see if those prices on the secondary market on the original Toy Biz Dragon Man, if they're going to drop, you know, because that's still a figure that I always wanted and I would cop it, you know. So now my message is to my fellow collectors, don't go crazy paying overhyped prices out of FOMO. You know, have patience. I always do, and it's paid off a lot for me. Well, that's my time, people. So keep collecting, stay true to the hobby, not the scalping. Main One Collector, out.